Welcome to Tech in the Right Direction, the podcast. Let's take tech in the right direction to drive social change and close the employment, pay, and culture gap for women in technology. This podcast is focused on helping turn ideas into action and create opportunities for women to advance in the dynamic technology industry. I hope this podcast will inspire and motivate you to encourage more women and girls to seek or grow a career as a woman in technology. Stories about the journey of amazing women in the tech field starts right now. Welcome to Tech in the Right Direction, the podcast. This week, I will be speaking with Colette Bishamy and Melody Roberts. Colette's professional work has been dedicated to strengthening and revitalizing business ecosystems, industry sectors, and communities through trade development, workforce, and educational programs and innovation-based initiatives. She has significant experience in working with membership-based industry associations and government-sponsored programs that are focused on improving U.S. manufacturing through technology advancements and workforce initiatives. Colette is the director of WIL, the Women's Innovation Learning Lab at the Women's Business Development Center, a program that helps women and minority-owned businesses translate ideas into value-added products and services by making innovation and entrepreneurial management tools and methodologies accessible, relevant, and inclusive. Colette is a proud mom to 3 adult sons and a teenage stepdaughter. She loves spending time with her family, cooking, hiking, nature excursions, travel, reading, and yoga. Next, we have Melody Roberts. Melody is the co-founder and CEO of Liv-Labs, a consumer health tech startup addressing pelvic floor fitness. Over a 25-year career, Melody has worked to solve a wide range of everyday problems for women, from feeding the family to memory keeping. She launched her career developing new product concepts for household consumer brands at Smart Design in New York City. She then spent time in Silicon Valley, where she led innovation programs for IDEO clients, including Hewlett-Packard, the NSA, and McDonald's restaurants. This led to a dozen years rethinking and modernizing convenient food service, initially with the McDonald's Global Innovation Team and later for Panera Bread Company. Melody earned her bachelor's in American Studies at Yale and her master's in human-centered product design at Illinois Tech. Welcome to the show, Melody and Colette. I am so happy to have you.
Pleasure to be here.
Thank you for having us, Jennifer. Delighted to be here.
Great. Well, let's get started. So we'll start with you, Melody. Can you share with us your career journey and how you got to where you are today?
Well, I would describe where I am as my third phase. I didn't invent that, but I'm really in my third phase. My first part of my career was spent in consulting. I worked in New York City in the design field. I moved to Silicon Valley and spent some time there, really more as an innovation consultant. The second phase was my corporate phase. It was absolutely thrilling to work at McDonald's Corporation for almost a decade, making change and designing altogether new customer experiences at scale, and then to have an opportunity to reprise that for a couple of years with Panera. And now in my third phase, I'm a startup founder, an entrepreneur. It's a whole new frame, a new way of thinking about myself, an incredible learning journey. And what more to say? I'm loving it.
I love the phases. I love how you broke it up because it is a journey, and some people break it up into decades of their life, but that's very neat. So Colette, can you share with us your career journey and how you got to where you are today?
Sure. So I've spent the majority of my career working in economic development, focused largely on helping companies grow through initiatives that support either market expansion, process improvements, and workforce development. And I think the theme of innovation and transformation has probably been the golden thread and what I find most rewarding. So in the mid-2000s, I designed a product that received a patent, which was an awesome experience. And that process of design and production really got me interested in manufacturing. But at that time, manufacturing had shifted largely offshore, so it was really difficult to get that product made. So I joined a small trade association focused on helping Illinois manufacturers remain globally competitive, did some work there, and then that led me into working in the international economic development field, where I worked for the British government, heading up their international trade office. And then I came back to manufacturing, and for the last several years have spent time working with an innovation consortium focused on Industry 4.0, which is about the digitization of manufacturing. And then most recently, I joined WBDC to head up its innovation program.
That's amazing. Wow, I love women and innovation. That's, it's you don't hear of it that much, but I'm so happy that you're in that field because innovation is so critical for growth and for us to thrive in today's world. So, Colette, I know you are heading up the development of the Women's Innovation Learning Lab at WBDC, as you mentioned. So how does that work, and how is it supporting business owners through this pandemic?
Sure. So I'll just briefly talk a little bit about the WBDC, which I understand you know a little bit about. We're a fairly well-established 501c not-for-profit based in Chicago. And over the last 34 years, we've been really dedicated to economic parity and ownership as a critical path for women and minority-owned businesses to realize their economic empowerment and self-sufficiency. So our mission is to support and accelerate those businesses, their development, their growth, in order to really strengthen their participation and impact on the economy. And so we are HQ'd in Chicago, but we have offices in Aurora, Richton, Park, and Little Village, as well as serving a 9-state region, which helps women-owned businesses become certified. So we are a third-party certifier for the WBE as part of the Women's Business Enterprise National Council. And so as part of our effort to continually strive to elevate our programs and services, we really began to look at where there might be gaps and opportunities that could better meet the evolving needs of our clients and our partners, because we have many corporate partners as well. And while innovation has always been part of the WBDC's DNA, right, we've been breaking down barriers and advocating for economic parity for the last 3+ decades. It was really time to be more intentional about what innovation means, not just to us as an organization, but our clients. And, there is frankly no greater time than the time we're in, the pandemic. If necessity is the mother of invention, one could argue that crisis is the catalyst for innovation. And that's really where we pick up with the lab. So we're excited to announce WIL, which is the Women's Innovation Learning Lab. And it has been created and designed to really democratize and diversify for women and minority-owned companies their access to innovation and entrepreneurial management methodologies and tools. So our goal is really to help reduce the risk and uncertainty of new ideas and help them grow to ensure not just long-term sustainability for their families and communities and their ecosystems, but obviously for their own companies. And if I could just briefly chat a bit about what we mean, and I know we'll come on to talking a bit more about innovation in a moment, but what I mean by these tools and methods, there are things such as, which Melody knows very well, design thinking, business model canvas, lean startup, growth mindset. These specific tools and methods and approaches are different, and they matter because we know that these same tools have been highly effective and impactful for large corporates that have structured and well-funded innovation programs where they test ideas, they're ahead of the curve, and it really lets them be globally competitive. They're also used in technology startups and incubators and accelerators. But where we saw the gap is there's a gap in the awareness, the access for women and minority businesses. And so we believe that by making them aware of these tools and methods, making them accessible and relevant, that we will help them make better informed decisions to reduce risk. And so really it's about inclusive entrepreneurship.
I love that. Wow, that is really innovative and really helping women and minority businesses grow and thrive. I want to back up for a minute and talk about the WBDC as well. I have been certified with them for over 15 years. I think it's close to maybe 20 years, and just love the community that it presents for for its members, for its certified members that help you grow, connect, and really grow your business. And we've had many women that are part of the WBDC on our podcast that are very successful and will continue to do that. But just love that community and have grown up with it, with my business. So thank you for all the services that you provide. The other area is, can you give us some examples how women are interacting with the Innovation Lab? Like, what would be one example of someone that is now interacting with the Innovation Lab, and what are they doing?
Sure. So we spent the last 6 months, mapping out putting together our roadmap, and we're launching our official programming next year. What we have done over the last several months is gone out and worked with our clients either in a one-on-one capacity. We've also embedded training curriculum into our existing cohorts. We have 3 practice areas, which I'll highlight very quickly. The 3 practice areas are really meant to drive the innovation within our clients. So one is around growth mindset, leaning upon the tools that are part of Carol Dweck's seminal piece of work, and the other is around design thinking. The second practice area is really these tools and practices that I've been mentioning. So we're working with Market Opportunity Navigator and testing business ideas. We're running our clients through these programs, which really gives them an opportunity to de-risk what they're doing. They're really learning new tools around discovery, client surveying, prototyping in ways that they haven't before. And then lastly, our practice area is what we call technology enablers. So for many of our companies, access to technology is an issue. They use technology in some ways, but really what we're trying to do is make sure that they're aware of technology enablers that can make their business run more efficiently. So those are the 3 practice areas, and our goal in 2021 is to expand our offering by making available innovation cohort trainings, where we'll bring in 15 to 20 students over a 9-week period and have them run through these training cohorts. We'll be developing a webinar and podcast series, as well as our one-on-one advising.
That's amazing. What great programs for women to really get involved and grow. I would love to talk to you more about, how we can help on the productivity side, the efficiency side, because, the training programs that we do, I think, can help women to really grow their efficiency within their businesses. So, I'm very passionate about women and technology. So anything I can do to help, I'm in.
Thank you, Jennifer. That's great.
Sure. All right. So Melody, let's talk innovation. Why is innovation important, and what are some of the benefits that you see?
So, innovation is kind of the air I breathe. It's always challenging for me to step back and ask why.
Mm-hmm.
I've been working in technology development, new service and systems design my whole career. But what I would tell you is that everything changes. The way we do even day in and day out activities evolves. And it often evolves so slowly we don't notice the change. But if you look back 20 years, 40 years, 60 years, it's incredibly obvious that everything changes. So working in innovation is really just living and leaning into the future, knowing that the future is already real somewhere, even if it's not real yet here. And also, I think that innovation has become more prominent and more, I'm going to say, popular to address, simply because the pace of change is quickening. Part of that is, honestly, the growth of the human population and the need that brings for us to address large-scale systems for sustaining human health and happiness. So innovation is just plain fundamental to our long-term survival and the best possible experience here on Earth.
That's great. We need innovation. It has to be part of our DNA. It has to be a part of every business, because if you're not innovating, you're kind of dead. You're not growing. So tell me a little bit about, how the pandemic has affected women and minority businesses, and what are they doing to thrive during this pandemic? And I'll open it up to either Colette or Melody, whoever wants to answer that.
I can speak to it specifically.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I certainly can't generalize on how it might be affecting other businesses.
Mm-hmm.
But in the case of mine, so I have a startup, as I mentioned, and we're developing consumer health technologies that enable women with pelvic floor disorders to engage in new and better types of self-care, and both therapies that are ameliorative as well as the pursuit of long-term cures. So that's it's not a storefront business, as valuable as every storefront business is. We're trying to do something that involves quite a bit of R&D. We have about a 2 to 4 year R&D lead time that we're addressing. Wow. So in our case, the pandemic didn't really stop us. We were conducting a clinical study that was executed in home. There was no disruption to that activity because we were already operating virtually. Mm-hmm. The team is nationally distributed. We were already interacting on Zoom pre-pandemic. Mm-hmm. What it did do was catalyze two things. First, it enhanced our sense of urgency around the digital experiences we want to develop. And second, it enabled us to bring in some talent over the summer that would not have been available otherwise. We had an amazing team of 5 undergraduates and graduate student interns, all of whom either lost the internships they were planning on already, or, well, all of them lost the internships they were planning already. Mm-hmm. So we were honestly beneficiaries in some sense of the changes, but in no way happy about what caused that, of course.
Right. Now, you said it enhanced your sense of urgency. So does that 2 to 4 year window get shortened now because of you being able to get more interns and enhance where you were?
It will not entirely shorten it. We're in the 3rd year of the business already, so okay. Next year's the 4th. Mm-hmm. But it allows us. Right. It allows us to parallel process. We're developing a medical device on the one hand, and that is to go through a regulatory compliance process. That's on its own timeline. But digital services are something we can introduce in the meantime and build a groundswell of interest around. So that's the path on.
Interesting. Yeah. All right. So I know you talked a little bit about self-care. I think that's a good segue into the next question is, you know, work-life balance is such a big challenge for women because we say yes to everybody else before ourselves. And so any best practices, Colette and Melody, if you could share, what do you do to get work-life balance?
Did you know that there is an increase in the number of women leaving the tech industry? As a woman-owned business, Directions Training has made it our mission and passion to change this statistic. That's why Jennifer created this podcast. We showcase insight from everyday women for everyday women in the tech industry. Do you know other people that would benefit from tuning in? Share the link and help us drive the advancement of women in the tech industry. Do you have a journey or know of someone that our listeners would benefit from hearing about? Reach out to us at directionstraining.com/podcast. Don't forget to follow us on LinkedIn, Facebook, and wherever you find your podcasts. Now, back to the show.
Things are merging in ways that they've never merged before. Remote working is the new norm. So, you know, going from your coffee to going right into your business day, there is no kind of, there is no stop. And I think that really requires one to, you know, figure out where they can create reasonable boundaries. And that is everything from creating, you know, spaces in your home to kind of more of a routine around that. I think that really helps, you know, reinstill some normalcy and some regularity that, you know, is so much in need right now. And I think that, you know, the how do we balance the work-life conundrum? I mean, that, you know, has always been an issue, and I suspect will always continue to be an issue, particularly for women. And I think, again, that has to do with prioritization. and boundaries. And really, I am a believer in you can do it all, but maybe not at the same time. I've lived that personally. And I think it's about choosing where, at what point in your life you can do the things well and where you might have to have some give. And then lastly, being empathetic and kind, right, to oneself, and not only to yourself, but to others and your colleagues. And I think that's really critical, because if one thing that COVID has done is that we have this kind of shared experience, and our humanity is really rising to the occasion. And I think people are more forgiving, and they're more understanding, because there is no better way to experience or express empathy than to be going through something yourself. So, kind of personal perspectives on the work-life balance question.
I agree with Colette's point about priorities. I sometimes think balance is the right word for some women and not for others.
Mhm.
For me, work is play. I love what I do. So I don't typically think of working many hours as giving anything else up. However, I have two amazing children and a lovely husband, and I I worked the kind of hours that didn't make it possible for me to be the primary parent. So in our family, he's the one who agreed to stay home for the early years, and I used to say it took two of us to earn my corporate salary.
Mhm.
So that's how we worked it out. No regrets.
That's very, very good. I too have a very supportive husband, and so as the kids were little, we had equal equal responsibilities and kind of jumped in. Whoever came home first from work would make dinner. Uh, whichever kid needed help, we would help, and so it really that blend gives you more of a balance. And I don't even think there's balance. It's like you kind of have to do it as it comes and just be present and be part of enjoying the experience. Like you said, you enjoy work, so enjoying the experience is so important. Well, thank you. Those were great best practices. Um, Actually, I do want to go back and ask Colette. You said setting boundaries. Um, can you share like some examples of boundaries you've set up?
Sure. So I would think that there's something around time and space that seemed pretty obvious, but
Mm-hmm.
where we happen to be having our some work done in our home, and finally I had to kind of give in to the fact that I would be roaming around from room to room trying to find my quote office,
Mm-hmm.
and I created a whole new workspace in our basement, and that really helped me have a destination to go to. And it sounds really simple, but that really was helpful in creating a boundary space. People weren't walking by. This still happens occasionally, of course, but
Mm-hmm.
when you're on a Zoom call and you have people walking by or there's noise in the background, so that helped create the space. And I think there's boundary around time. How do you kind of, either inform people who are, at home with you that these are the times that I'm kind of not available, or, with your colleagues, because the hours are blurring so frequently, right? The days are getting longer because of a work-life balance, that you have to kind of be intentional about when you spend your time and how you spend it. But I do think that the remote working piece has enabled much more flexibility. And so I think that's serving everyone quite well. So I think it's really about, time and space, and creating those pieces that give you the opportunity to create boundaries.
Yeah, I love the time and space. And, as you said, the basement might sound easy, but it's not. Sometimes we, yeah, are going from room to room and trying to make it work and then getting frustrated and getting aggravated. So just taking a step back and saying, okay, what do I need to do? And where's that space that's going to give me that peace of mind is a huge part of it. So I think that's great. Um, all right. So I love to travel, and well, we can't travel right now, but the future, we will go back to it. So let's start with Colette. Curious to know what's the best vacation you've ever had and why.
Oh, that's so difficult to answer. Just so I will talk in general terms and try to pick one. But so I
Okay.
do love to travel as well, and I would say as long as there are certain elements that are there, which would include for me a great company, and that would be typically family, friends, my husband, my children, or meeting new people. And I think learning, if I can, I do love the sit on the beach for a little bit, but I can only take that for so long. But the opportunity to learn, which typically involves some kind of historical destination, and then for me, great food. So I've been lucky enough to travel to some really cool places, but I just turned 50 this year, and our plans to do some amazing traveling were unfortunately upended. So we're gonna postpone that, and we are looking at some destinations, possibly in the Middle East and Europe. So we'll see where we get to. But as long as they have those components, I think we'll have a great trip.
And try to pick one place that kind of came to mind at first question.
Italy has been, I've traveled there the most, and it is just, it's an amazing country, so abundant with art and beauty. And so I would have to say many trips to Italy have been fantastic.
And amazing food.
Yes, yes.
I was always amazed when I went there. We had 3-course meals, and I never gained an ounce because we walked so much, and I loved that culture.
Yes.
Yeah, that's great. Melody.
Well, I'm just going to refuse to choose only one. That's how I am. I'm kind of a little ornery. But I'll give you some contrast. I think 2 of my favorite vacations were very essentially different in nature and along exactly the lines that Colette just described. I took a trip to India, my first trip to India in 1994 with my husband. We were newlyweds, and it was a learning adventure. We went throughout Rajasthan. Of course, as newlyweds do, we went to see the Taj Mahal, Fatehpur Sikri, Lal Killa. It was an amazing adventure, and it was, just the 2 of us, so that was special. But I would say equally special was a vacation I took, just the 2 of us, with my teenage daughter to the Emerald Coast of Florida, and it was exactly the opposite. We did almost nothing other than cook and read and clean up after ourselves. And as my daughter said, Mom, it takes a lot of time to do nothing.
Yes, it does.
I love that. Oh, wow. I love both of those, learning and, experiences, and then just, cooking, reading, and cleaning up. I think that's awesome too. With sometimes my entire world is a schedule, and so not having a schedule always is appealing. I have a question, Melody. Why India? Why did you pick India? I'm always curious about the thought process of people when they're choosing a destination. How did they come up? Is it an experience? Is it people that you know? Is it the food that you like? Why India?
Well, I was going to meet my in-laws.
Oh, okay.
Yes, my husband's from Mumbai, so this was
awesome.
The first trip.
That's awesome. And then, Colette, do you have any thoughts on the process of picking a destination?
Oh boy, I think it's the adventure. It's learning something new. I think about actually I'm thinking about Morocco as my next destination, and just
Nice.
the color and the smells and the sights, and it's so immersive. When you can have that kind of experience. That's, I think, what's driving me for my next adventure.
I love that. Love that.
I can recommend Morocco. It's amazing. It's wonderful.
I'm going to add that to my list. That sounds amazing. All right. Well, this has been so much fun. So, in closing, what advice would you give to a woman who's considering a career in tech or moving careers? We really want to encourage more women to come into technology, but, I think all women in business are important, and best advice is always taken to heart. So let's start with Melody. What would you give as an advice, best practice for a woman that's considering a career in the tech industry?
Well, don't laugh, but I'd say the single most straightforward thing you can do is get a degree in a technical field.
Mm-hmm.
So I have my master's in human-centered product design from Illinois Tech, and that positioned me to more or less effortlessly move into the field and into the sector. However, I have seen a lot of people enter through administrative and project management roles. So if one has a background in communications, like a degree in English, or I don't know, political science, but an interest in running an office, there are all kinds of jobs, all the basic jobs of any organization exist. So just don't hesitate.
That's great advice. Yep, great advice. And yeah, in technology, we do find people get there accidentally. They don't usually have that degree in technology, but there's so many other ways to get into technology. Like you said, admin and PM roles. Get your feet wet, dabble in it and see if you love it. Colette?
Yeah, I would echo Melody's comments. There is really, for me, in my experience, there's been no straight line. So I think there's a mix of being open and being curious, being open to the possibilities that something might ignite, your interest, and really going with that. And being curious. Many of the best jobs I've taken have been out of, in fact, when I started in manufacturing, that was out of pure curiosity. And so I think if you can feed that curiosity and be open to the possibility that, it is not a straight line, and that sometimes you go 2 steps forward and maybe a step back, but being open to all of those possibilities. In addition, I think, to what Melody said, which is yes, having some, if you're interested in pursuing something in the technical field, education and training, and also mentoring within that field.
Yeah, that's great. I love that you said be curious. I am always curious, and I learn so much by being curious every day with the people I meet, the people I talk to, people I've never talked to, just asking questions, understanding who they are, understanding their job role. All of those things really help give you an idea if you're passionate about that or not. So that's great, great advice. Melody, what's the best way for our listeners to get a hold of you and your company? And then I'll ask Colette the same thing right after you're done.
So 2 different answers. To reach me, go to LinkedIn. I'm at Melody Ann Roberts. To reach Liv-Labs, go to our website, www.liv-labs.com.
Perfect. And Colette?
Same. I am on LinkedIn. Great way to get a hold of me, or visit our website at www.WBDC.org. And we'll also be updating our Women's Innovation Learning Lab page within our home website. But look out for that. It'll be happening after the holidays.
I'm excited to explore that. So, Colette and Melody, thank you so much. This was such a joy to spend time with you. I loved your thought processes. I loved your answers. I know that you're inspiring women out there to really move into a new career, technology career, hopefully. But either way, building confidence and getting them to really consider who they are and what they want to be is really our passion. So thank you both so much.
Thank you, Jennifer.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to Tech in the Right Direction. Please take a minute to subscribe or follow so that you never miss an episode. Also, don't forget to like, share, and comment. Thank you. See you next week.
From IT skill enhancements to end-user adoption training, Directions Training is your resource to help optimize the effectiveness of your technology investments. Over 500,000 students have taken advantage of our wide selection of technology and business training solutions covering the most popular applications today, such as Microsoft 365, Azure, Windows 10, and more. As a podcast listener, we invite you to take advantage of an exclusive offer. Receive 30 days of free access to our Microsoft official curriculum on-demand courses for IT professionals or end users. Visit us at www.directionstraining.com/podcast to claim this offer today. Hurry, this offer is only available for a limited time. Success is a journey. Ask for directions.